I'm Sam, 33, and I guess you could say I've always been the responsible one in the family. The guy who handles things. The one who always picks up the slack when things go south. Growing up, I didn't mind it much. My dad was strict, not particularly warm, but he always talked about duty and respect like they were the highest forms of love. So I leaned into it. Got a job straight out of college, stayed away from trouble, and when my parents hit a financial rough patch about 6 years ago, I stepped in without hesitation. Paid off some credit card debt here, handled the utilities there. Eventually, I started covering the mortgage when Dad's health forced him into early retirement. He never thanked me. Not once. But I didn't expect him to. I wasn't doing it for praise. I was doing it because I thought that's what family does. You help each other. You show up. I guess I never noticed the shift. At first, my help was appreciated, or at least acknowledged. Over time, though, it became expected, then assumed. The tone changed. If I didn't send the money on time, Mom would text things like, "Bank called again. You forgot." Not "could you" or "would you." Just, "You forgot." Like I had failed in some obligation I never actually agreed to. Meanwhile, my younger brother Nathan, for years younger and still coasting on the fumes of he's just figuring things out, lived in their basement, rent-free, working maybe 10 hours a week at some coffee shop. When I asked once if he planned to move out or find a full-time job, Mom actually scoffed and said, "Not everyone is as obsessed with money as you are, Sam." That one stung more than I care to admit. Still, I brushed it off. Holidays came and went, and every year I'd foot the bill for decorations, the catered food, the wine, and, yes, even the presents for the extended family. I'd show up, get a distracted nod from Dad, maybe a nice sweater from Mom, and watch as Nathan basked in the attention for showing up with a six-pack and a story about how he almost got cast in a commercial last month. It was exhausting, but I told myself it was temporary. I told myself they were stressed. I told myself it would all balance out in the end. Then came last December. About a week before Christmas, I texted Mom to ask what time the party would start. She didn't respond, which wasn't unusual. She's always been more of a Facebook commenter than a texter. So I followed up with Dad. Simple message. "Hey, what time should I come by for Christmas this year?" His reply came 2 hours later. "Don't come to the Christmas party. It's for actual family." That was it. No greeting. No emoji. Not even a period at the end. I remember reading it twice, thinking maybe I had misunderstood. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe he'd meant to send it to someone else. But no, it was my number, my name, my exclusion. I sat with it for a minute, then typed one word, "Understood." I didn't argue. I didn't ask why. I didn't demand an explanation or fire off some emotional rant. I just sat back in my chair and let the silence fill the room. I stared at that text until my phone went dark again. Then I stood up, walked to the fridge, poured myself a glass of water, and started thinking. See, here's the thing about being the responsible one. You know where all the strings are. You know which payments go where. You know the due dates, the account numbers, the login credentials. You know how fragile everything really is, how much is held together by your silent, invisible work. And after 6 years of being their invisible backbone, I realized I didn't owe them anything anymore. Not after that text. So I waited. I didn't do anything dramatic. I didn't call them out or make a scene. I just stopped. Quietly. No more auto payment for the mortgage. No reminder in my calendar. No, "Hey, just send it" message. I let the due date come and go like a leaf on the wind. Then I turned off my phone and spent Christmas alone with a rented movie and a takeout meal from the Thai place around the corner. It was quiet. Peaceful, even. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was waiting for someone else to approve of my presence. 2 days after Christmas, my phone started vibrating on the kitchen counter. Over and over. I didn't check it right away, honestly. I didn't want to. But when it finally stopped, I glanced down. 67 missed calls. Most from Mom. Some from Dad. One from an unknown number. A voicemail icon blinked at the top of the screen. Curious, I pressed play. It was Dad. His voice was clipped. Urgent. "Sam, I don't know what happened with the bank, but they're saying the mortgage wasn't paid and they're initiating default proceedings. You need to fix this. Now. Call me." I didn't. Not right away. Instead, I opened my banking app, confirmed the payments were still paused, and then leaned back in my chair again. That same quiet from before settled in. But this time, it wasn't lonely. It was powerful. I wasn't trying to hurt them. Not really. But for the first time, they were feeling what it was like without me propping everything up. And they didn't like it. That was only the beginning. The next morning, I woke up to 3 voicemails and a barrage of texts, some angry, some panicked, and a few that danced dangerously close to guilt tripping. My favorite came from Nathan, of all people. "Dude, what's going on? The bank guy came to the door this morning. Dad's freaking out. You need to fix this. You're being selfish." Selfish. I stared at that word for a long time, letting it sink in. It was almost impressive how effortlessly they flipped the narrative. How quickly my years of quiet support had been forgotten the moment I stopped being useful. No one asked if I was okay. No one wondered why I hadn't paid. To them, I wasn't a son or a brother. I was a service. A walking ATM with a smile. That evening, I got a text from Mom. Not angry this time. Measured. Careful. "We didn't mean what we said. Of course, your family. It was just a misunderstanding." I didn't reply. Another message, a few hours later. "Can we talk? Please? This isn't like you." No, it wasn't. But I was starting to like this version of me. By the end of the week, they'd sent another dozen messages. Calls at all hours. Even an email, an actual email, from Dad. It was short, but the tone had changed. "I know you're angry. Let's sit down and sort this out. You've made your point." Oh, there it was. The shift. The acknowledgement, cloaked in restraint. He couldn't bring himself to say, "I'm sorry, but you've made your point," was as close as he'd ever get. And you know what? That might have worked on me 6 months ago. I might have swallowed my pride, made some excuse about miscommunication, and jumped right back into fixer mode. But this time, I didn't feel guilt. I felt clarity. That night, I made a decision. Not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. I pulled out the manila folder where I kept all the documents. The original agreement I'd made with them when I took over the mortgage, back when things were temporary. The email chain with the bank, the payment history, and, more importantly, the release clause I'd added after year 3 when I started to realize this wouldn't be so temporary after all. Yes, I had put everything in writing. Because if you've ever been the responsible one in a messy family, you know the importance of documentation. The clause said, in plain language, that the arrangement could be terminated with written notice at any time, and that I held no long-term obligation beyond the payments already made. It was signed, dated, witnessed, ironclad, so I drafted a letter. Simple, formal, respectful. As of this date, I am officially terminating my financial support for the mortgage of the property at address. Per our original agreement, I have no further obligations. I recommend contacting your bank directly to discuss payment options. I attached the document, sent it certified mail, and CC'd my lawyer just in case. Then I blocked their numbers. I didn't do it out of cruelty. I did it because every time I saw their names on my screen, the anxiety came back like a tidal wave. Tight chest, racing heart, that pit in my stomach that had been with me for years. I realized I had been living on the edge of burnout for most of my adult life, and I wasn't going to do it anymore. That weekend, I took a drive. I hadn't planned it. I just got in the car and started driving until the city fell away behind me. I ended up in a quiet coastal town 2 hours north. Checked into a little bed and breakfast. Walked the beach at sunset. Slept for 12 uninterrupted hours. No vibrating phone. No urgent emails. No weight on my shoulders. The next morning, I sat at a cafe overlooking the ocean and opened my laptop. A few emails waited for me. Work stuff, nothing major, but one caught my eye. A generic notification from the county records office. A notice of default had been filed on the house. I sipped my coffee, read it twice, then closed the tab and leaned back, letting the sun hit my face. The world didn't end. I didn't collapse from guilt. I didn't feel like a failure. I felt free. Back home, things were unraveling. I didn't have to ask. Mutual friends started reaching out. People I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly checking in to see how I was doing. I knew the drill. The gossip was starting to circulate. Sam cut them off. They're losing the house. Nathan says it's all Sam's fault. The narrative was being spun, but this time, I didn't care. Let them talk. They'd told me I wasn't family. I just finally listened. And that's when something unexpected happened. A week after the notice of default, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Then another. And another. Finally, curiosity won out. I listened. It was my Uncle Mark, Dad's older brother. He'd always been a bit of a ghost in the family. Not really involved, lived out of state, showed up at weddings and funerals, but otherwise kept his distance. His voice on the message was calm, almost too calm. "Hey Sam, it's Mark. I heard what happened. Just wanted to say, you did the right thing. Your dad did the same thing to our mom, you know. Used her until she couldn't give anymore. You broke the cycle. Proud of you, kid." That voicemail wrecked me in the best way. It was the first time someone, anyone, acknowledged what I had done without judgment, without trying to pull me back in. And that's when the guilt truly faded. Because maybe this wasn't just about one Christmas party or one cruel text. Maybe this was about generations of emotional manipulation, patterns disguised as tradition. Maybe walking away wasn't betrayal. Maybe it was healing. I sat there with that thought for a while, watching the waves roll in, wondering what came next. That's when the knock came at my door. I opened it. And there, standing in the hallway of the bed and breakfast, bags under his eyes, tie undone, eyes burning with a mix of desperation and something dangerously close to rage, was Nathan. "Dude," he said, voice hoarse. "You need to come home. You need to fix this. Now." And I just stood there, quiet, calm, letting the moment stretch. Because for once, I wasn't the one who needed anything. I was about to answer when he said something that froze me in place. "Dad says if you don't pay by Monday, we lose the house." I looked him in the eyes. And then, I shut the door. I didn't slam it. I didn't yell. I didn't even blink. I just closed it. Smooth. Silent. Click. He didn't knock again. Not right away. I stood with my back to the door, breathing in that quiet moment, waiting for the anger or guilt or panic to return. It didn't. My hands were steady. My mind was clear. I could still hear the ocean through the slightly cracked window behind me, waves tapping the shore like a metronome for my pulse. Even the air felt easier to breathe. A few seconds later, a muffled voice came from the hallway. "Are you serious right now?" Nathan hissed. "You're really doing this?" I didn't answer. I sat on the edge of the bed, pulled out my phone, and turned off the ringer. He paced for a bit outside, his footsteps sharp on the hardwood hallway. Then I heard the door next to mine open, followed by a hushed conversation, probably him renting the room next door. Typical Nathan. No plan, no luggage, just storming in on impulse. He probably expected some dramatic scene where I'd shout, we'd cry, I'd agree to fix it all, and then we'd drive back like nothing ever happened. Instead, I went to dinner. There was a little seafood place on the edge of town. I got the fish and chips, took a window seat, read a few pages of a book I hadn't touched in months. My phone buzzed once, Nathan, again, and I ignored it. For the first time in what felt like years, I didn't feel like I owed anyone my attention. When I got back to the B&B, it was quiet. No Nathan in the hall. No note under the door. Just silence. I thought, maybe he gave up and left. But the next morning, I found him on the porch, arms crossed, tapping his foot like a kid in trouble. "Sam," he started, before I even stepped outside. "You made your point, all right? You wanted us to feel what it's like without you. We felt it. But this has gone too far. Mom's not eating. Dad's losing it. They're gonna lose the house, man." I leaned against the doorframe. "It's not their house. It's the bank's. They're welcome to talk to them. You know what I mean." I waited. He threw his arms out. "Okay, yes." Dad was out of line. The text was messed up, but it was just words. "You're gonna let a text destroy everything." I tilted my head. "That's the thing, Nathan. It wasn't just a text. It was the final receipt. Years of being used, ignored, dismissed, and then that? That was the closure." He stared at me like he couldn't recognize the person standing in front of him. And maybe he couldn't. Maybe for the first time, I was standing in my own outline instead of the one they'd drawn for me. He stepped closer. "You don't get it. If they lose the house, I lose everything too. I live there." I couldn't help it. I laughed. Not cruelly, just genuinely. The kind of laugh that comes when you realize the punchline isn't even clever. "That's your problem," I said. "You think you live in the house. I've been living under it, holding it up, and I'm done." He blinked. "So that's it. You're just walking away?" "No," I said. "I walked away the second Dad said I wasn't family. This is me staying gone." He was quiet for a long time. "I can't believe you," he muttered. "You're just like him." That one stung, more than I expected. But I didn't show it. "I used to worry about that," I said. "I spent years trying to be the opposite. But now I realize the real difference between us." "What's that?" "I clean up my own messes." And with that, I turned and went back inside. Nathan didn't try again that day. I heard his car pull away around noon. Part of me expected he'd come back, or send mom this time, or even get dad to grovel, but they didn't. Instead, the silence stretched and stretched. 3 days passed. Then came the letter. It arrived at my apartment when I got back from the coast. A thin white envelope, my name printed neatly in blue ink. No return address. I opened it slowly, already expecting guilt-tripping or veiled threats. But instead, it was a single sheet of paper. Handwritten. No greeting. Your mother's not well. The stress is making it worse. She says it's her fault you left. I told her it wasn't. You're a grown man. You made your choices. You made it clear where we stand. I just hope you can live with it. It wasn't signed, but I knew the handwriting. My father's. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just another subtle jab wrapped in fake concern. But something about the tone was different this time. There was no demand. No assumption I'd rush to fix it. Just a quiet bitterness. Like a man staring down the barrel of consequences he never thought he'd face. I folded the letter, put it back in the envelope, and tucked it away in a drawer. Not to revisit, just to remember. The next day, I got an email from the county registrar. The final stage of foreclosure had been filed. I didn't celebrate when the foreclosure went through. I didn't pop champagne or post some passive-aggressive quote online. I just sat on my couch, quietly, staring at the email that confirmed everything I had once believed was permanent was now officially over. It was a strange thing, mourning something I'd already grieved in pieces over the years. I didn't cry. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt hollow, but clean. Like someone who had finally scrubbed the last bit of grime from his hands after years of work he never agreed to do. The house went on the market within a month. I followed it out of curiosity at first, watching the listing pop up online. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, charming colonial with mature trees and tons of potential. They staged it with some neutral furniture and good lighting, but I could still see the outlines of my old life in the photos. The worn spot on the banister where Dad used to rest his hand. The corner in the dining room where Mom set up the tree every Christmas I paid for. Even the scuff tile in the kitchen that Nathan spilled red wine on and never bothered to clean, until I did. It sold faster than I expected. A young couple bought it. They posted a smiling selfie in front of it with their dog and a caption that said, "First home together. New beginnings." Good. Let it be that for someone. I heard bits and pieces about what happened after. From a mutual cousin who couldn't help gossiping over drinks one night. My parents moved into a small rental 2 towns over, closer to Nathan's coffee shop job. The rent was too high, but with no mortgage and a smaller place, they scraped by. Barely. Mom ended up in the hospital briefly, panic attacks, not a heart issue like Dad had implied. She was discharged after a few days. They didn't have great insurance. I suppose that was my fault too, in their eyes. Nathan bounced between jobs for a while, then started driving for a rideshare app. He never did move out. Last I heard, he was living on their pull-out couch. The same cousin told me that Dad blamed him for the house going under, saying, "If you'd pulled your weight, Sam wouldn't have had to carry us." Apparently, Nathan didn't take that well. The family started fracturing from the inside, everyone blaming everyone else. I stayed out of it. My phone stayed quiet for months. No calls. No messages. I blocked them all, but even so, I think they just stopped trying. In their world, I'd become the villain. The heartless son who walked away, who abandoned his parents and left them homeless. Let them think that. They weren't homeless. They were finally accountable. I poured my energy into my own life. I took a new position at work, one that required travel, something I'd always put off because I felt tethered. I started dating again, for the first time in years without the constant weight of obligation hanging around my neck like an anchor. I got a dog. A goofy, lopsided mutt named Winston who became the best listener I've ever met. And slowly, I started to realize something important. They had never been my family in the way I needed. They were people who raised me, yes, who provided a roof and food and rules. But not support, not warmth, not acceptance. They raised me to serve a role. The caretaker, the silent son, the dependable one. When I stopped playing that role, they stopped pretending to care. One afternoon, about 10 months after the foreclosure, I got a letter in the mail. No handwriting. Typed. Neat. Businesslike. It was from their lawyer. A formal notice letting me know that my name had been officially removed from all family assets and power of attorney documents. It wasn't surprising. I hadn't spoken to them in nearly a year. But it was the coldness of it that really struck me. No personal note. No explanation. Just a line at the bottom. All obligations, financial or otherwise, are now considered severed. I smiled. I framed it, hung it in my home office. Not out of spite, but as a reminder. A certificate of freedom, in a way. Around the 1-year mark, I got a message from an old family friend, someone who used to come to our holiday parties and always brought homemade fudge. She reached out on Facebook, just saying she'd been thinking of me and wanted to let me know she missed seeing me around. She also said something I didn't expect. "Your dad told me what happened." I just wanted to say, I don't blame you. None of us do. Everyone always saw how much you did. We just never said anything because, well, you know how your dad is. But we noticed, Sam. You were never invisible. I sat with that one for a long time. I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear it. Years of being the responsible one had conditioned me to believe no one saw the effort, that I had to keep doing more just to earn a place at the table. But that message, simple as it was, let me know I wasn't crazy. I wasn't selfish. I was just done being used. I replied, thanked her, and told her I was doing well. Better, even. Eventually, holidays came around again. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. And for the first time, I didn't wait for an invitation. I didn't glance at my phone, hoping someone would remember. I booked a trip instead, went skiing with friends, laughed until my stomach hurt, took pictures with strangers, drank too much cocoa, and not once did I feel like I was missing anything. Because what I finally understood, what took 33 years to fully accept, was that blood doesn't entitle anyone to your life. Love isn't proven through sacrifice alone. And family, real family, doesn't weaponize your kindness and call it duty. They lost the house. I found myself. I don't know if they'll ever understand why I walked away. I don't know if they're even capable of it. But I no longer need them to. Because I built something better. And this time, the foundation is mine,